Back everyone to the Game Time Pod. We are back with part two of our NFL draft recap. It was a eventful NFL draft, and once again, I am Isaiah Hoffman along with Daryl and Ramon. We are getting into the rest of the draft. We've already talked about Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland. We've talked about Jacksonville and Cleveland making one of the bigger trades in recent NFL draft history, and now we are on to the rest of the NFL draft. We were talking about our winners and losers, some of our favorite picks, and I will start us off with winners and losers. I'll go over some winners here and there. I don't want to give them all the way in one, but the first team I have to talk about as one of my winners is my team, the Dallas Cowboys. I thought Dallas had a way better draft than they've had the last 2 years. I was very disappointed with last year's draft, especially with the way that class performed this year. Most of the class this year really did not do well. Tyler Guyton had a lot of holding calls against him. I see what we're trying to do. We have to rebuild an offensive line that has been great for almost a decade and a half, if you want to say, and we're trying to rebuild this line. I can't sit here and lie. Tyler Booker was a reach, and it definitely had me a little concerned, but he played at Alabama. Like he's gonna figure it out. He's gonna figure things out. And Daryl, I'm interested in what you have to say about Tyler Booker and that pick, because as you guys know, leading up when we started this pod, I wanted us to get Ashton Jenny. I was hoping we could get McMillan, but both of those weapons went off the board back to back to Las Vegas and to Carolina. So when we went offensive line, I wasn't mad with that because we needed to fix this offense. Now, the biggest thing I'm seeing with Cowboys Twitter and stuff is we didn't draft a receiver, but I think we did a really good job of filling out this offensive line and filling out positions we needed. Especially one of my better picks in this draft was getting the East Carolina cornerback. Excuse me. I know he had some injury issues, but he's going to be a very good pick. He was going to go first round if it wasn't for the injury he had in college. And then the running back from Texas, I can't remember his name, but I also liked that pick from them as well. I thought Dallas had a way better draft than they did last year. I think the other team that I was very impressed with when it came to their draft was the New York Giants. I think getting Abdul Carter was the right move in that sense, and then going up to get – I'm never going to hate for somebody going up to get their guy, and they went and got Jackson Dart to sit behind Russell Wilson. I don't think that's ever going to be a bad thing, and then you got Jameis in there to buffer those two out for as Jameis being the backup. I think off those two picks alone, I think New York had a really good draft. I won't go over my other winners yet because I do want to hear what you guys have to say. And then, Daryl, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about Tyler Booker, because it was a bit of a reach. Tyler Booker to Dallas was at that 12 spot.
Here's what I would say, right? I'll just start with the Tyler Booker piece, right? You got a guy with cachet. He came out of high school out of Texas as a 5-star player. Big time, right?
Mm-hmm.
This guy wasn't some guy off the scrap heap. He goes to Alabama. He's the anchor for that offensive line with all that youth they got going as a guard, right? With a quarterback who you don't know where he was going to always be. That's the challenge with a running quarterback. You don't know where he's always going to be. He's athletic, he's smart, and he's not afraid of the big time lights that'll be shined on him. Big time in high school, big time Alabama, big time Dallas. Nothing's gonna phase that young man. He's got a positive attitude. He's well grounded, and I think if you keep him at guard, you got a replacement for Zach. You don't put him at tackle. You put him at guard. He's strong. He's got some powerful lower body, so I think he's a better guard than he will be at a tackle. So you keep him at guard. I think that's where your win is right there.
Mm-hmm.
With Tyler Booker. So from a winning perspective, my top team that won is Philly. Philly is the proving ground for Alabama and Georgia, right? And a lot of people knock and they say what they want, but it comes out. Talent matters. You can get that guy from Toledo if you want as a second-round pick. That's great. You'll have those guys every now and then that'll step up. But you go get that talent where it's heavy at. And I think what Philly did, they're replenishing guys they lost in the defensive end, and they're saying, we want talent, we want competition. And I think iron sharpens iron, and by week 10, 11, 12, those teams that got that talent, it sifts through. Because guess what happens in the NFL? everybody's getting injured, right? Everybody's getting tired. So you've got that depth, and I think Philly, for me, Philly and Cleveland were the two big winners. I've already spoke about Cleveland, what I think about them. But I think Philly was another one that added and replenished their talent that they lost in the offseason. And then the third one was the Giants. Think about this. What did I say 2 weeks ago? I said I thought the Shedeur was going to go to the Giants, right? At 3. I said Jackson Dart and he, in my mind, were very similar. Not you get Abdul Carter, you go back in and you get your quarterback who's going to sit behind veteran quarterback for a year. Jackson Dart played in an NFL system. He had great coaching. And again, I'll say it again, he played against top talent. So I think that was a win for the Giants and those first 2 picks and what they, especially trading back up. I think that's going to be a big win for the Giants as they go on into next season. Because I think if Jackson Dart can stay regular and stay grounded, I think they've got an opportunity to get to ensure that he's going to be a Giant for a while, especially with Brian Dable and his offensive mind. Then my loser I've got is pretty easy. The Steelers.
Yep.
You've been begging for a quarterback. You needed a quarterback. You didn't move. You draft at 21, which is not a great spot. But then think about this. They didn't get a running back. You let Najee Harris go. You don't replace him. You got your quarterbacks that were there last year. You don't replace them. You stand pat. You're waiting on an aging Aaron Rodgers. Remember they knocked Shedeur Sanders saying, well, hey, he doesn't move very well. I want a guy that can move. So you say, I want a guy that can move, but you're waiting on Aaron Rodgers, who's 40 years old and is a statue. So I don't follow that line of thinking. Maybe they're going to do something in the summer or something along those lines. I don't know, but I think in my eyes, Pittsburgh Steelers were the biggest loser in the draft off the first weekend.
Ramon.
If I go by the complete draft, I got 5 winners. I think the Ravens had a good draft, and I'll talk in detail about each one of them later. I think the Buffalo Bills had a good draft. I think the Kansas Chiefs had a good draft. I like New England, and I'm with everyone else. I like the Giants, right? But before I go into those guys, I don't agree with the Pittsburgh one. I think they had a pretty decent draft. I like the running back they got out of Iowa, Caleb Johnson. I think he's really good. Led the Big Ten for a minute in rushing. He's very physical, has some breakaway speed. So I like that pick. I like Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State as an edge rusher who can play opposite of your boy, or if one of those guys get hurt, the super guy with all the brothers. I like the nose tackle out of Iowa. The Will Howard pick, I think that he is good if you get a veteran and he can sit for a couple of years. He'll be serviceable. He's I think Will Howard is a poor man's version of Ben Roethlisberger. Big, can run, stays on track with his passing, sits in the pocket. All time is pretty good. Arm not as strong though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they had a bad draft at all. I think they just had an okay draft. I do like the guy from Oregon they picked, the defensive tackle. I think he's physical and he's mean. So I think that they did what the Steelers do. They got a physical running back and good defensive lineman. That's what they do. And it's been a winning recipe for them for a long time. Maybe not a championship recipe, but it's been a winning recipe. So I think that they did okay. I would give them like a B minus. I wouldn't say it was terrible. I think the Ravens did really well. You guys know in our mock draft, I was high on Malik Starks. I think the kid's a baller.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a problem for people. They got did they get the edge rusher that you guys like from Marshall?
Mike Green. Yeah.
Yep. So they got him. And they got him at a discount basically in round 2 versus round 1. So that's a good move. And that brand of defense that they play, no matter who's calling it, is the same. It's tough. They got Jones out of LSU, right? Offensive lineman. So I think they did well. And they got a homegrown kid from Indiana. They got Jay Higg as a free agent out of Iowa, who's a pound guy, plug the whole guy. So I like their draft. Buffalo. Who did Buffalo pick they picked somebody I like.
They got Jahad Campbell.
No,
that was the Eagles. That was the Eagles. They got Maxwell Harrison. My bad.
Yeah, I like.
They got the Kentucky corner.
Yeah, so I like that pick. I haven't seen much of TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. Todd, you probably seen a lot of him being an SEC guy. The edge over at Arkansas, I think that's a safe pick.
Yeah.
Jordan Hancock from Ohio State. The boy can hit. He's gonna come up and hit you. He's decent in coverage, but he's gonna come up and lay you down. So I definitely like that one. So I think that they had a fairly good draft. I think Kansas City did what they need to do. First, they went for somebody to protect their quarterback. Josh Simmons can definitely do that. Then they went back and got them a D tackle, a DN. I mean, they went and said, hey, we're going to go back and win in the trenches. Our quarterback can make just about anybody look good. We need to go ahead and get back into the trenches and win football games. So I like theirs. And then I'm biased. I never liked the Patriots in my life, but since they coach played for the Buckeyes, he drafted them Buckeyes. Y'all know I like Will Campbell out of LSU. Yeah, so I really like that group that they brought in with New England. Losers, who do I think? I didn't like my 49ers draft.
Yep.
I don't think it was bad, but I don't really like it. Quarterback out of Indiana, is he healthy? I know he had some issues.
Hey, he had a torn ACL all last season. He said he had a minor injury in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he didn't get looked at the rest of the season. If he's nothing, he's tough.
Yeah. Hey, man, tough don't win football games if you can't be out there.
Oh, I get you. I'm just, if he's nothing, at least he's tough.
I'm going to throw a loser out here, and I want to see what you guys think. I definitely think the Chargers had a bad draft. I don't think they did what they needed to do. I think we liked the running back out of North Carolina, but I don't think the Chargers specifically needed him, because if I remember, they took one last year. I think the Chargers really just messed around this draft. There wasn't a pick that I thought was good. I thought all of them were okay at best.
I think it was a good pick for the running back because you've got Najee Harris on a 1-year deal. So you got rid of your previous running backs from last year, right? You've got the kid from Ohio State's gone. You've got Gus Edwards gone. You bring in Najee Harris, who will be in year 6, right? And he is who he is, right? He's not going to change. So you got a young guy that's coming in who has some really good play in North Carolina. So I think that pick there, especially with Jim Harbaugh being a guy who's going to run the ball, I think it was good. That pick was good because it's going to add depth for that backfield. And also, I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to want to run the ball 6 out of 10 times.
I think Herbert going to throw to.
Well, I understand that, but you got to run the ball first. You can throw it 55 times a game. Then Herbert's not going to finish the season.
Yeah.
Then, he's susceptible to being hurt. You add some offensive line help, which you did. You got a running back help. You got a quarterback who can be a top 10 quarterback if you got things around him, right? So yeah, I think they are devoid of receivers, but with Harbaugh, he wants to run the ball. He wants to run the ball and play good defense. So we'll see what what the Chargers do as the offseason goes, and see if there's a receiver that comes out of nowhere. Remember, there's a lot of guys on the scrap heap right now, veteran receivers, that are there right now, and maybe just maybe come June, July, one of those guys may be a guy that you look at. The guy from Chicago who was at the Chargers. I don't know if he'll go back. Then you've got other guys as well. So it'd be interesting to see what San Diego, the Chargers, do. I don't think it was bad. I just think they could have maybe done better. But that running back from North Carolina is a good pick.
Speaking of Chicago, I think they were also in my loser section as well. I think the Colston Loveland pick really shocked me with Tyler Warren still being on the board. But even then, I think Chicago once again, though them and the Chargers are really the two teams where sitting there watching the draft, it just kind of felt like when I was watching Dallas last year. It was just like, okay, but it just felt like there was no direction on what they wanted. You kind of, okay, I see what you're saying with Harbaugh and the right. I knew that with the running the ball. I just feel like receiver was the biggest need, and I feel like it wasn't addressed. But even then, I'm saying Chicago's a loser, but I think Chicago, they didn't have to have a great draft because they had such a great offseason. So I think for Chicago, I am putting them in the loser section probably because they took Colston Loveland over Warren. But I think in the other parts of it, I kind of will give them the benefit of the doubt because their offseason was so great. And we kind of said it a couple weeks ago in an earlier episode. The Bears really have everything put together in this season. And now it's going to come down to Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and this team having at least a good season. I know the NFC North is going to be tough, but we said it after the offseason. They have a roster to go out and win now. So I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They didn't need to have a great or good draft. I think they had an okay draft. It's just that Colston Loveland pick over Tyler Warren, I don't know about it.
Question on that, right? I've been seeing a lot of conversation about this kid being better than Warren.
I saw a little bit too.
It's not unanimous that Warren's the guy. So maybe they say, you know what? For what we want to do, love it.
Yep.
So I give them credit for saying we're just not going to go chalk. We're going to go for a guy we like. I like that.
Ramon, anything you got? Any thoughts? I know you're looking. You're just looking through. Okay.
Yeah, just looking through some of the things.
No, you're all good. Yeah, I was looking through some stuff as well. I think the other thing we haven't talked about, there was another trade, and that was the Falcons and the Rams trade that happened towards the bottom of the first round. A lot of people are low on what the Falcons did in this draft, and I think it's because, if I have it correct, the Falcons did give a first-round pick to the Rams to go up and get another edge rusher. So they took James Pierce from Tennessee, and then earlier in the draft, they took Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. Give me your guys' thoughts on this trade. I haven't done enough to give a fair comparison, but a lot of people do not like what the Falcons did in this trade with the Rams.
Pierce is a man. Pierce is a man. He's got size. He's got athleticism. I know a lot of people were knocking him. I don't understand why they were knocking him so hard. I saw this guy play, obviously, in the SEC and saw a lot more of his games than others. I'm telling you, he plays the part. He's not as raw as, say, maybe some guys are that are edge guys. He's a little bit more polished, and I think Atlanta hit a home run with him in a big way. I do think they reached on the Georgia linebacker, but if in fact he continues to progress, this is a home run for Atlanta. But getting both of those guys.
Yeah. Ramon, any thoughts on that trade?
No, I think this is one that we may have to see it play out.
Okay, fair enough. Yep.
I understand it, but I want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Makes sense.
I understand it, and I can't say it's bad, but I can say I would like to see what happens.
Okay.
So I could be, my hindsight being 2020, I could tell you something and be perfect once it happens.
I want to switch over to the other quarterbacks in this draft. We talked about Ward and Shedeur a lot leading up to the draft, which, by the way, that video did very well. So thank you guys for the love on that video. But I want to see what you guys think about the other quarterbacks, because there's two quarterbacks that I think ended up in really good situations. One of those is Jalen Milroe to Seattle. I think he got put in my opinion, his ideal spot, unless he would have went to Pittsburgh. I really like where Milroe ended up. And then I think the other one, and there's a lot of talking points about him, is Quinn Ewers to the Dolphins. I like this situation for for Ewers as well. Now, I think the Dolphins did sign a quarterback in free agency to back up Tua, but I like this situation for Ewers because I think there may be a situation in play where he does get a chance to play, but on the other side of that, I think Ewers should have stayed in college, especially for where he got drafted. I think Ewers should have stayed in college. I know he had a lot of offers on the table. He could have been a first-round pick next year. You know, he could have kind of got the Cam Ward effect if he would have stayed in college that next year. But I don't mind the situations he's in. But I think the biggest winner out of these quarterbacks, you know, obviously other than probably Cam Ward, is Jalen Milroe. And Daryl, I know I'm curious what you think, obviously being the Bama fan. And then Ramon, I know you've got some thoughts probably about Will Howard heading to Pittsburgh. But for me, Milroe to Seattle and Ewers to Miami are probably the two ideal situations that I like for these quarterbacks, barring Cam Ward to Tennessee.
I agree 100%, right, with the Milroe deal. Two reasons why, right? He's a Texas kid that played at Alabama. He's going to the great Northwest. He's going to be behind a guy who just signed a 3-year big deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he is definitively not going to be even sniffing starting opportunity. With that said, he's the antithesis of the quarterback that he's backing up.
And then there's Drew Lock there too. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, Drew Lock is just
I know. I'm just saying
So, but I like him though because he loves rap music. I do like Drew Lock. He loves his rap music. But the thing is, with Jalen Milroe being opposite of what Darnold is, that's going to put him in a position where they've got some packages for him early on. So like they did with Jalen Hurts. So like even what they did for Anthony Richardson in the beginning last year. But of course, he was a starter 2 years ago. But I think he's going to have an opportunity to probably play, 6, 7, 8 plays a game.
Yeah.
Get his legs underneath him. He's got no pressure to be a starter. All he's got to do now is get in the classroom, work. And no one works harder than Jalen Milroe. This dude was a 3-star quarterback come out of Texas. He was 5th on the depth chart in Alabama. 5th. Not 3rd, not 4th, 5th. Finished the last 2 seasons as a starter, right? So I'm going to say this. He's in the best place he could be for me from a Bama fan and from a bigger than a big Jalen Milroe fan. So I love it. I love it.
Ramon?
All right. If I'm talking about quarterbacks that are in good positions, and I don't want to talk about the normal ones, I'm going to say I like – it's going to crack you up. I definitely like Will Howard in Pittsburgh.
Of course.
I like –
really?
No, I just think it's a perfect match, man.
No, I agree. I like the fit. I do like the fit.
You think it's a perfect match, too. I actually like Riley Leonard here in Indianapolis.
Okay. That's okay.
I like that. I'm going to tell you why I like that. If you look at the two that they have now and Riley, they don't have to change the offense at all.
Nope.
At all. So it's going to be like, who's the better fit? Whose foot fits better in this shoe? Because this offense should fit all of you guys. So who can wear it better?
Mm-hmm.
So I like that for him. So I like Will. I like Riley. And the next one I like is Quinn Ewers. And tell you why I like Quinn. Man, that dude, to whatever his name is, what's the quarterback's name there?
Tua?
Who? Tua
Tagovailoa?
Yeah, I can't pronounce all that, man.
You're all good.
Just call him Tua, man.
Tua gonna get hurt again, man.
Yeah. He's got to wear that guard. Yeah.
I disagree. He's going to
I don't want him to.
I don't want him to, obviously, yeah.
I don't want him to. I hope you're right. Because I think the boy can play.
Yeah.
So I hope you're right. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going to bet that he's going to be on the sideline at some point, and Quinn may get a shot to play.
Yeah.
And that's why I like. I mean, it's kind of like, man, I didn't want to be drafted in the 7th round, but this starter going to be hurt by like week 6. So
well, the other thing,
I made the chance to play.
Miami did sign Zach Wilson, so we'll have to see if he can beat Zach
Wilson
out.
Come on, man.
I'm just saying. Look, I'm just saying, right? Like, I'm just saying. I'm not gonna sit here. I realize who I'm talking about, but I'm just saying. You know, he's been through a couple of NFL off. I'm not trying to say, oh, Zach Wilson's like. I'm just saying there's the possibility that they go with Zach Wilson first and then Ewers plays. I'm just, you know, but I agree, Ramon. I think as a Quinn Ewers supporter, I think this is a really good situation for Ewers. The offensive weapons are there. Mike McDaniel is one of these young coaches that we all think is a really good NFL head coach. I do like the situation that Ewers is walking into in Miami.
Yeah, he's definitely the backup. He you know why? Because he's got the cachet. He's played at a high level. He was top quarterback in 2021. He transfers obviously to Texas. He holds off Arch Manning. We can say what we want. Arch Manning this, Arch Manning this. Coaches are going to play the guy who's going to be given the best chance to win. Okay, Quinn Ewers. You can say what you want. He beat out Arch Manning. He sat there, looked him right in the eye, and said, "I'm staying." This would have been year 5 for him if he'd stayed. At some point, you got to level off and say it's time to go. Just like with Jalen Milroe, another year as well too. Sometimes it's time to let go and go, and he did. So he's absolutely going to be the backup, and he's got a great quarterback coach there in McDaniel to help him see some things. So I think coming from Sark to McDaniel is going to be good for Ewers, in my opinion.
And the biggest thing with Ewers is he held the ball too long in Texas. That was my biggest takeaway from him.
That won't happen in Miami.
He held the ball, and he won't, right? I think we talk about Shedeur and how he was throwing these screen passes and stuff like that. I think this would be good for Ewers, right? To have these type of moments where he's throwing these check downs to Tyreek or Waddle. Like, he's in a really good situation with a lot of weapons, you know? It can make him look good, and he can be – I really love the situation for Quinn Ewers. Let's talk about some other picks in the draft that you guys liked as well. I think the first one I'm going to start off with, and it was a pick I was really surprised on. It's definitely one of Ramon's guys from Ohio State. Double E going to Tampa Bay was one of the more shocking picks in the first round, but it is a pick I really love because Mike Evans is a veteran. I think Godwin got hurt this year, if I'm not correct. This is a
dislocated ankle.
This is a really good pick for Tampa Bay. They could have waited to get a receiver, but they went and got their guy in Double E, and I think he's going to flourish at some point. He may not flourish this year, obviously, because you got Godwin and Evans there, but I think he will flourish in Tampa Bay, and I love that Tampa Bay is just like, okay, Mayfield can run this offense. He can hold it down. They've been to the playoff 2 years in a row. I like that they're trying to find, weapons that can do something for them now and not a couple years down the line, because Tampa Bay has a serious shot to compete in the NFC right now.
Well, yeah, they competed last year. If you think about it, I mean, they weren't anybody's doormats at all. And I think them adding getting Godwin back, Baker Mayfield another year in that same system is only going to get better. It looks as though his teammates love him, and that's important as well too. Hey, how are you playing when the lights are bright and there's a little bit of adversity, right? And last year they had some adversity especially when Godwin went down. And they continue to thrive and play. Bucky in the backfield was a great surprise for them at Tampa Bay as well, right? He played well the second half of the season. So I think Tampa Bay adding another strong receiver, yeah, I think that was a good get.
Ramon, any thoughts on other draft picks that you liked as well? We've got about 10 minutes left in the segment.
Talk about E-Double real quick. All right. The reason E-Double is a great pick, not a good pick, a great pick. All right. He's going to be by far one of the top 5 people inside your locker room, inside your building, inside your clubhouse. So there's never going to be any friction on no level with him. All right. 2, he's an incredible slot receiver. Gets in and out of breaks quick, gets north and south even quicker, and he breaks tackles. Plus, he don't miss catches. He don't drop balls, right? 3rd, he's not a diva. So if he's that number 3 receiver in the slot, he's not complaining. He's not yelling, "Throw me the ball." He's not throwing tantrums. And if you throw him, target him 4 times. He's going to catch it all 4 times. He's going to make something happen with his attempts. So you got someone who ain't going to talk crazy on the field to his teammates, going to be a great teammate in the building, going to be physical once he catches the ball, runs great routes, has good hands, and he blocks. He blocks very well. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I think that he's a safer pick than the one receiver that was drafted above him. So I like that pick. That's one of my favorite picks of this whole draft. My next favorite pick is probably I said this before to you guys last time when we were doing our mock draft. I like, and I hate to say it, I like Loveland to Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think he's the most complete tight end. He may not be the best, but I think he's the most complete as a pro in that position. And I think that he's gonna work wonders for Caleb. So
I want to pivot back to the Chargers, and I forgot to say, we were talking about the Chargers and receivers. They did pick up a receiver in round 2, and it was Trey Harris from Mississippi, Ole Miss. So again, another SEC talent. He's 6'2". I'm looking now. He's 6'2", 210, big body guy. Opposite of Lab McConkey, who's going to be in the slot. Higher grade that I thought he would have had. Not bad, 4.5 in the 40. Not a speed burner, but you don't have to be, right? So I'm gonna go back to that. I said San Diego again. The Chargers deal. I like it better than I thought I did initially because again, you're running back, then you turn around and you get a receiver in round 2 who's come from an area of where he's playing against top talent, and then you go get a tackle from Oregon, the D tackle Jamari Caldwell, who's a 3 technique guy who can play as well. And then you come on the backside, you get Kyle Kennard, who's the edge rusher from South Carolina, who I didn't like seeing him in when he was playing in Tuscaloosa because he was wreaking havoc. So he's gone now. So I apologize. I was I'm looking back at it now. Those first 4 picks, and in the 5th round, they got another receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith out of Auburn. So again, playing around a lot of talent. All these guys that I just mentioned, think about this. Omarion Hampton, North Carolina, top 2 to 4 guy in the draft. Then you get Trey Harris, Ole Miss. Jamari Caldwell, Oregon, D tackle. Go back, Kyle Kennard, South Carolina, top talent. And then you go after Keandre Lambert-Smith, Auburn, top talent. They went talent, man. I'm not a Chargers fan.
Mm-hmm.
My son is. My oldest son is. The more I look at it, I like what they did.
I think another team that we haven't shown a lot of love to is the New England Patriots. I think they did a great job getting this team ready for Drake May, right? You start with Will Campbell at LSU. I thought that was the right pick. You need someone to, as Will Campbell put it, die to protect Drake May. And I love that quote from him. Ramon's boy, Trayvon Henderson. I love that pick for New England, getting Trayvon Henderson. Then you
the best complete running back in the draft.
And then you get Kyle Williams from Washington State. You get Jared Wilson from Georgia, Craig Woodson from California, and then Joshua Farmer from Florida State. And we talk about running backs. I do like Genty in Las Vegas. I think the Raiders are really starting to put something together now. You've got Brock Bowers. You've got Geno Smith, who I think is a bridge quarterback right now. I think he's going to be there for a couple of years, and I think he'll do well in this role. But I think the Raiders are going to be competitive. You look at the AFC West now, you got the Chiefs obviously at the top of the throne. You got a Broncos team that overperformed. You got a Chargers team that they've got what we would say is a top 10 quarterback, maybe even top 5. Maybe I'm going to say he's probably right outside there. And then you've got this Raiders team that they go and find a competent quarterback. Gardner Minshew was not competent, but Geno Smith is solid for sure. He's going to give you production. You've got now you can have Genty in the backfield to give him some cushion. Brock Bowers at tight end. I'd have to go look at the receiver room, but this Raiders team is pretty solid. It's a pretty solid team, and I think adding Genty was the right pick. They could have went somewhere else. They could have went with McMillan, but I do like Genty for what they've had. If they didn't have Geno Smith at quarterback and they just had somebody at quarterback, I wouldn't like it as much. But to give Geno that cushion and to have Brock Bowers, who did really well last year, I like what the Raiders did, and I like the Jeanty pick.
Yeah, they added to the offense because, as you said, Jack Beck in the second round, Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State, who's really good at the third. And then you got Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, back-to-back offensive line. So what the Raiders are saying is, we're going to score some points.
Yeah,
we've got an up-and-coming tight end. We got a very above-average quarterback. We got Jeanty, who says, "Okay, we got you." Jeanty said, "Hey, I've got the history of breaking tackles and I can play." So let's see what happens, man. Raiders.
Yeah. So coming up next, we've got the NBA portion of our segment. Ramon will not be there for these next two segments. It's going to be me and Daryl finish it off. We appreciate Ramon coming in. Of course, we needed to get our head football coach in here for the NFL stuff, but he is a head coach in high school football, so he's got to attend to that. But me and Daryl are going to finish off stuff with the NBA stuff, and maybe the wraparound segment we'll see. But we've got NBA playoff talk coming up next.